What are you talking about? What specifically in your marketing team are they going to have to multitask on if that's what you're looking for? You give an employee a probation period, most places, of 3 months. You're also on probation in the employee's mind.
Talked fairly high level. Is there anything very specific that you're like, this really, really, really works well?
The absolute classic in the formal definition of onboarding.
Onboarding a new marketing employee. What should you do? When should you start? And how do you maximize the opportunity? This episode is about onboarding and retaining new hires. Welcome to the KZ Show, an exploration of all things digital. I'm your host, Brent Kobayashi. Today, we're going to explore how to onboard people into your marketing team. From experience, onboarding is critical when hiring a new person. And with me, I have our general manager, Ruth Henderson. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you, Brent. Hi.
So, funny question. When do you start onboarding?
Most people think onboarding starts the day the new employee arrives. Onboarding actually starts when you post your job ad, because we find that we are trying to hire people into a role that's very specific and unique to what we're looking for. And then the person arrives and perhaps they weren't quite clear on what they wanted, or you weren't quite clear on what you expected, and you're starting off with a gap. So we like to say that onboarding is not just the first day or week after employee arrives. It's before they come to you for an interview, and it's after they actually start. So it's quite a long spectrum.
This reminds me about how when we're going through objectives for a client's website, say for instance, we're going, what do you need this website to do? Quite a number of clients actually aren't specifically looking for money. They're looking for good quality employees. That period, that to me is brand. So how are you expressing the company? How are you expressing who and what you are? Which is really cool, because when you express that well, it actually overflows to what you're doing with the company. And when you're focused on the employee, you're really sitting there saying, you know what, this is the place you want to work, and sort of setting those expectations up early. And maybe even giving you a little bit of grace as you get them in, because they'll have an experience of you, of an expectation of what it is that you're about to deliver to them.
Let me explain a little bit about the formal thought of onboarding that most people refer to. Is new employee George has accepted your offer and he's starting with you on June 1st. When George arrives, there's a great checklist that is available. You can Google them or you can create them. They're pretty simple. And you create this checklist, and the hiring manager needs to make sure all these things are ready. And that's classic good onboarding. It includes, do they have a password? Do they have a laptop? Do they have a desk and a chair? And this is in a physical environment. In the virtual environment, do they have logins to everything? Have you scheduled their first day or even week or 2 weeks? There's a lot of things that are needed to keep that person interested, engaged, and helped them feel comfortable they've made the right decision. I have my own rule of threes. I think I've shared this with you before, and I've used it so many times with friends or when I've been coaching people. By day 3, you need to know the name of 3 coworkers and where the bathroom in the cafeteria is. If you're virtual, of course, that's not an issue, but you need to know the name of 3 coworkers, and maybe we add something different, and 3 major clients or something that you're working with. By the end of 3 weeks, you're going to say, oh my God, what have I done? And by the end of 3 months, you're going to say, I got this. But the caveat is, you're only going to say, I've got this, if what you think you signed up to do is what you're actually being asked to do. Like the 3-week mark of, oh my God, what have I done? That's where really great onboarding can reduce that fear, that anxiety. Oh my God, what have I done? Is now, gosh, this is a lot of work, but I feel very supported. That's what real onboarding helps with. The 3-month mark of I got this is that after gap that I was telling you about, where have you done the right job description? Do you know what you're hiring? Have you thought about it? Have you planned it? Or are you just, oh, we need to replace Susan who left. Just throw up her old job description. What? And now Susan's job has completely changed, or you've decided you want it to change in the interim period of wanting to hire someone and bringing Susan or George on board. Studies have shown the cost of recruiting, and you don't want to go through it more than you have to. So you want George to hit the 3-month mark and go, I've made the right choice. I've got this.
So this is exactly sales. Like, so much of the sales that we do in our space, in the marketing space, in the agency space, is about setting client expectations. Because so when an employee comes in, and I think this is where it goes to what you're talking about, the cost of recruiting, and certainly we've seen it over the couple decades we've been doing this, that person was looking for a job many places, might even be in the middle of multiple interviews. The other, and I would say that first few weeks, first few months even, that's where, if there's a little bit of a disconnect, they're more likely than any other time in their career, except when they're not happy anymore and they've decided to move on, to be having other opportunities.
Yeah. Like, and at the 3-week, oh my God, mark, at that point, if they still had connections, they were interviewing others, they're going to peace out. They're going to say, no, I don't need this. You guys don't know what you're doing. This is not what you asked me to do. No one here is friendly. The culture is awful. And I'm only 3 weeks in. We've got you give an employee a probation period, most places, of 3 months. It's a good round figure. You're also on probation in the employee's mind. It's no longer a one-way street as it was for years and years. You don't want to deal with the churn. You want to impress the pants off people and make them feel like a rock star so that they don't want to leave.
Yeah, it's to me, it's brand.
You are marketing your company and you want to stand out. That work starts early for you, the company, to identify who you are and what you're selling. There's some really cool examples recently of creative job descriptions. When people are trying to, I would say, break the mold and look for the right person. I came across a really fun one from McDonald's, and they were hiring students, and they wanted to make sure that students knew they didn't have to have experience, because any of us who tried to be a waitress or a waiter or work when we were teenagers, it was hard to get a job because you didn't have experience. But how could you get experience if you couldn't get a job? So McDonald's advertised things put in the wrong place. So it said, we need students, no experience necessary. And it had a box of the McDonald's fries with a Big Mac in it. Or, a container for McNuggets with ice cream in it, or that kind of thing. Like, you're going to make mistakes and it's okay. IBM used infographics. And this is not what used to happen, but it's showing how they've changed. And are you a good fit for this job? Here's an infographic. It's not a document anymore.
So those examples really, I love that it maximizes the opportunity. When you're hiring for a new role for your company, thinking of it as a marketing opportunity. Now, I get it. McDonald's is sitting there going, we want to hire people. This is their first job. It's okay to make mistakes, all of that type of thing. And at the same time, the brand of, wow, well, I'm going to go to McDonald's and they're going to be happy people. They're going to be people that are well taken care of. They're going to be people that want to learn, and maybe this is their first job, so they're doing great, whatever that happens to be. Because really what it is it's one thing to have a brand expression, whatever that brand expression is. We get things done for our clients or whatever that messaging is. It's another thing to be the brand. And what you're actually communicating is, we're being the brand, and when we're bringing you on, employee, this is the brand we're going to be.
Imagine you've done all that work, says who you are, what your brand is. What are people looking for? There's a really interesting meme that said Gen Z will not reply to a job ad if it doesn't have salary listed. And somebody wrote on it, good. Kind of mean, but it's very clear that the next generation, you better post the salary. Now, George shows up and has to go and work with this team, and they're not on brand. Now you've got the, oh my God, what have I signed up for? So that's why the onboarding process starts early and has a lot of opportunities for that to fail.
I really am believing that people need to think of as hiring as sales, business development, because it's the same thing. I can have a great business development meeting with a client. They like me. They like what we do. And I toss them over to the production team, and it's a completely different experience. You want that follow through to go now over to the manager. So you have to make sure the manager is briefed on what's important for this person. Yes, they're going to take a holiday in the first 2 weeks or a month because it was already pre-booked and there's a wedding, whatever it happens to be. And so that manager, even if it was okay, isn't there, oh, sorry, what? You're taking... No, the person feels, as you said, like a rock star, like somebody that's important to the team right off the bat. And then all of
themselves, sold you the real them. Yeah. Wasn't making a sales pitch that was garbage. So it means that during the interview, when George said he has aging parents and has to do some care for them, that's been passed on to the new manager, and the new manager gets it. We've already talked about that. We'll build that in here. Yes, we can do that. It's making sure that what you have sold George is the truth.
Speaking of truth, that's where you want to set, again, back to expectations. So especially if you're hiring for a marketing department, you want to say, you're going to be juggling a lot of stuff. This is what it's going to be like. Really be super clear with that and follow through with it in the first number of weeks and stuff, and test HR managerial check-in from a more of a human level. Then you might be missing a lot, because the person may be succeeding, but they might be succeeding because they're going well into the night. And you may not know that, especially if you're virtual. You won't know that that's how they're managing.
There's an expression in, so the other side of me, as you know, is process improvement work. And there's an expression or a term that's used in process improvement called poka-yoke, which is Japanese, and it means essentially making it impossible to make a mistake. So error proofing. And that's why, another reason why I talk about how onboarding, the success of onboarding, starts before you're hiring them. So how do you help them understand what multitasking means? Multitasking means something different to everyone. What are you talking about? What specifically in your marketing team are they going to have to multitask on, if that's what you're looking for? Just writing multitasking is not helpful. How are you in the interview going to demonstrate that? Are you going to set up a test, for instance? Not a test, but some pre-work. You are given these 6 tasks. Yeah. How would you prioritize them? That is to prevent somebody starting on day 1 and going, oh, I can't do this. So, Brene Brown says clear is kind, right? And unclear is unkind. So how can you be clear? I feel like it is so important for people to comb through the job ad or comb through the interview questions and say, is it possible for somebody to interpret this differently? Let's say we talk about diversity and we want to hire people. We say that diversity is a huge part of our organization and our culture. Many people will think you mean diversity of background, ethnic background, culture, that sort of thing. And someone might say diversity of thought. I approach things differently. I'm just saying diversity even is a term that we probably think means the same thing to all people, and it doesn't. multitasking,
Right.
diversity, analytics, pick a term that you would see in job descriptions. And I bet you most people will come up with different meanings or descriptions for that term.
Well, certainly if you're in a creative department, diversity of thought, diversity of experience in a multicultural world is crazy important. But how do you, one, encourage that and bring a person into your organization? How do you onboard them when it's in a diversity of thought scenario? Like, what could you do?
And the danger of not doing it is that people tend to hire to sameness. Sameness is something we all do as humans to build relationships. We seek sameness. We're attracted to, when we hire to sameness, it's comfortable and it doesn't offer as much creative tension and opportunity to explore. My dog, Daisy, is an Australian copper dog, which is not a common type of dog. And I was looking at different breeders of Australian copper dogs, and I mentioned one to the breeder for Daisy, and she said, be careful of that one. They haven't added new genetics to their gene pool in a long time, and it's starting to show. And I thought, wow, that is sort of perfect for work. If we have become so comfortable in our family as a team and we love working together, but we haven't injected genetics or think different styles of working or thinking, are we becoming stagnant? So it's part of an awareness discussion that needs to happen in the organization with the hiring manager to say, we've got all these great people. What are we missing? What could we hire that would add to this? And how would we respect that different way of doing things?
So this is starting to feeling like it's bringing into the conversation about culture. And maybe we can talk a little bit about culture in either virtual or hybrid environments. Let's go with virtual, because that's where we're at right now.
Right.
We transitioned a couple years ago, and oftentimes I felt that our virtual culture, there's no culture. It's like, okay, we're typing into a computer and we meet every now and then for a meeting.
Guess what? No culture is culture.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that is the culture. So it's like no decision is a decision, right? You said that the other day. Mm-hmm. And no culture is culture. You can't, everybody has culture. It's just that if you feel that your virtual culture is everybody just typing words into a machine and once in a while chatting in a chat room, that is your culture. Does it work? I don't know. It might. Are you hiring somebody into this culture? In which case, you need to be super clear. This is what our culture is right now.
What we're doing, and I would say a lot of marketing departments are doing, is trying to connect with a human being and have that human being understand the company, the organization. And if you're not taking care to have a culture where it's not just, I'm going to type and throw things off at somebody else, and we're not going to connect as we know how to connect as human beings, it is more challenging from what I've seen for the creative people. You crave some sort of level of connection, some level of brainstorming. And brainstorming across SMS, Teams, chat, Slack, whatever it is very, very, very different.
What would you do to hire, knowing that the culture needs to be collaborative and that we are restricted by whatever technology we have? You would look for someone who over communicates, who is seeking to understand, who likes to collaborate, all those things. And I would add to that, I would look for someone who is, first of all, comfortable working virtually in this environment and who has new ideas on how to do it better. When we talk about that diversity of thought, so if you're going to be bringing someone who is coming for the very first time out of an in-person environment into a virtual environment, that might not be what you're looking for, because they're going to struggle right off the bat with, oh, but I'm used to, shouting across the cubicle at my neighbor, or I'm used to us all going for a walk to Starbucks and talking about that client portfolio to and from. So again, if I were doing my job recruiting, I would either say I want them to already be comfortable in a virtual environment and have ideas and ways for us to get better at it, because we certainly need to, or somebody who's never done it before that we can train into our way of doing things. But either way, that onboarding is critical to keeping them from at the 3-week mark saying, what have I done? I got to get out of here.
So let's shift gears a little bit. How do you maximize this new person? Obviously, you want them to do the job, but what can you do to maximize the opportunity of a new person?
You have an idea when you hire someone into marketing or any department of what you want this person to do from your own perspective. And as you've been speaking with them through the interview process, you've probably compiled a list of things that they could also do, or that you would like them to work on, build on, use, etc. There's really many ways you could go about maximizing them. It makes them sound a bit like a commodity, and maybe in today's day and age they are a little bit. And you have both short-term objectives, and that's a plan. That's putting together a development plan. Here's what I'd like you to do. Even over 3 months, putting together a probation plan is really helpful so that they know what their goals and objectives are, and you can talk to them on a regular basis. Part of the onboarding is checking in at minimum every month for at least 3 to 6 months, if not more frequently. We wanted you to do this. Is this working? How's that working? And then it's the other idea of checking in after a month and saying, so what have you learned about us? What have you noticed? I like to do that at the first week and then just say, okay, I'm going to ask you that question a lot. What have you noticed? One thing, personal pet peeve for me, is when people start and they right away tell you how to do things differently. To me, that's a red flag for a new hire. They come in and on the end of the first day or first week, or even in the first month, they're saying, you guys need to do this a different way. I used this in the past and it really works. There's a way to say that, to say, I have an idea on this. Can I talk to you about it? Would this work in this situation? It's about exploring the possible, but the big thing is at least making them feel free to say, here's what I've noticed.
2 things on that. One is, part of that is coaching, right? So part of that is saying, great, you've got these ideas. This is how you can approach it, because that's what we do with clients. They have specific ideas or specific notions, and it's our job to not invalidate.
Yeah.
But at also the same time, this is the one thing that I've always really appreciated about a new hire is they're the ones with the new eyes.
Oh,
they're the ones that don't do it the way you've always done it. They're the ones that are looking at it and saying, oh, this looks very painful and costly. And to me, maximizing is just leverage. It's like, that's what you want to do. It's like, this person's valuable. And part of the reasons why they're valuable is because they're new. Mm-hmm. So what can that look like? And I would say in a marketing department, one of the things that I really like is when you take that person and you have them marketed internally, as well as potentially, and I would say definitely externally. Mm-hmm. So in other words, this person's joined our team. This is who they are. Get a great bio for that person. Mm-hmm. Libby Lucas, our creative strategist, writes creative bios, and they're great. And so let's bring that out, and not only just bring that out to whatever's going in your presentations and all of that type of thing, but also how is that being circulated internally? So,
well, you hit the nail on the head earlier. You said that onboarding is a branding process or a marketing process or a sales process for your own company. And like I said, onboarding is not bringing George on to start day one and the first week making sure he has a computer and meets with people. That may be the classic onboarding. Onboarding is a much broader spectrum, and it starts when you know who you want to hire, and it's goes on after George comes to join us, and it's including things like maximizing him, making him feel supported, checking in, introducing him to the team, introducing him to clients. What are those great things that you can now say, look, clients, what we have on our team, who we have on our team with new skills. And all of those things are part of the broader onboarding process to make sure George feels like a rock star and doesn't leave, so that you get things done that you wanted to get done and you don't have to start all over again. It's a good 6 months from really figuring out you need someone to having them on board, and you don't want to go through that again. So I love the idea of thinking of it as a sales pitch or an advertising pitch for your team from beginning to end.
Yeah. Okay. Any other great onboarding tips or tricks, or we've talked fairly high level. Is there anything very specific that you're like, this really, really, really works well?
The classic,
or should be done?
The absolute classic in the formal definition of onboarding in your first few days or weeks in the company, you must have a schedule. You must be aware that they're coming and have a plan for them for their first couple of weeks and assign them a buddy. They have to have a buddy. They have to have somebody they can talk to, ask questions. I don't remember where this link is. I don't know who this client is. I don't know what this thing is. You have to do that. There is nothing worse than arriving at a company and feeling like you're annoying people. So you have to have a plan, set up their meetings and their schedules, set up their interviews with people for at least a couple weeks, give them something to do, give them time to ask questions, and have a buddy that they can always go to at any time. I've told you the story before of my first job in a manufacturing company. They were not expecting me. They were told they were taking me on in this one department. It was finance. And so they gave me the tax and tariff manuals to read. For my first 2 weeks, that's all I did, just to read them. And I didn't read them. You know, I couldn't play on my phone. There weren't smartphones then, but it's awful. And the same thing could happen here. So yeah, here's 30 links. I want you to read them. I want you to summarize who all the clients were. I want you to note down any opportunities, and I'm going to check in with you on Friday and we're going to go through them. Right? That's different than, we're really busy right now and we weren't expecting you to start for another 2 weeks. So here's 30 links. Just go and read them and you'll see what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's cringy. Yeah. That's cringy and the person's gone.
So don't be cringe. And the person will leave. This has been great, Ruth. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, but now we're out of time.